Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Felicia Dunn. I'm the Assistant Director in the Stern Graduate Financial Aid Office, and I'm joined here today with my colleague, Corey Gross.
Hi, my name is Corey Gross. I'm the administrative aide for the Stern Graduate Financial Aid Office. I sort of act as the main point of contact for the office. I may have spoken with some of you already, and I look forward to getting to know you more over the course of your program. Our office works closely with the EMBA admissions team, the Stern Bursar, who will actually handle all money transactions and payments and refunds, the Stern Registrar, as well as the Central Office of Financial Aid.
Great, thanks, Corey. So today we're going to walk through the basics of financial aid at Stern. A minute ago, Corey emailed everyone a copy of today's slides, as well as a handout of notes that we put together that correspond with those slides. So this should make it a bit easier for everyone to just follow along without having to rush and write down everything we're saying. If questions arise, please feel free to enter them in the chat box. But if we know that we'll be addressing your question in a later section, we may just skip it and get back to it later in the workshop. So today we'll spend about 30 to 40 minutes reviewing the various forms of financial aid that are available to executive MBA students at Stern. We'll talk about both federal and private student loans in depth, and then later we'll review other forms of financial aid, including scholarships and how company sponsorship and company reimbursement work at Stern. Once again, please feel free to ask any questions along the way in the chat box. So to start off, the Executive MBA program for the incoming cohort, which is DC 23, the program cost is $176,800. This cost includes all fees, books, study materials, meals on class days, teaching assistants for selected courses, and residencies. Since the $5,000 non-refundable tuition deposit was due immediately upon acceptance, the remaining balance will be divided into 6 equal payments, which are due on June 15th, November 15th, and March 15th of each year in the program. This means that you have 6 payment deadlines in total, 3 payment deadlines in your first year, and then the remaining 3 deadlines in your second year. For students borrowing loans, our office sets up loans to correspond with these deadlines. We'll set you up with Fall 21 loans to cover your June 15th payment deadline, Spring 22 loans to cover your November 15th payment deadline, and then finally, Summer 22 loans to cover your March 15th payment deadline. I'm going to now turn it over to Corey, who's going to discuss student loans in depth.
Thanks, Felicia. This may be a review for many of you, but in case anyone in attendance has never filed, here's what you need to know. You must log on to studentaid.gov to complete your 2021-2022 FAFSA, which will be used for fall 2021, spring 2022, and summer 2022. Many students are able to use the data retrieval tool to pull in their tax information from the IRS, but you may need to gather your tax returns, as well as any W-2 forms in order to complete the application. Make sure that you include NYU school code, which is 002785, when submitting the application. That code is also on your handout that we sent out earlier. If you have a FAFSA on file, we will automatically package you for the cost of the program between the unsubsidized loan and the Graduate Plus loan for each semester. You will need to complete the 2022-2023 FAFSA for your second year, which will become available on October 1st of 2021. We will now review the different types of loans and how you will be awarded. Student loans fall into 2 categories, federal loans and private loans. Federal loans, which are subject to oversight and regulation by the federal government, include direct loans, where the U.S. Department of Education is the lender. These federal direct loans are the federal loans offered to you as an NYU graduate Stern student. First, there is the direct unsubsidized loan. Students are eligible for $10,250 in the unsubsidized loan per semester. The current interest rate for this loan is 4.3%, and the loan has an origination fee of 1.057%. This means that the government keeps a portion of each disbursement amount. For example, if you have an unsubsidized loan in the amount of $10,250, only $10,142 will disperse to your bursar bill. However, you'll be responsible to pay back the full $10,250 when you enter repayment. The unsubsidized loan is a guaranteed loan that the government will give you regardless of your credit. However, it will accrue interest while you're in school. This is currently a little bit different because of COVID. So the federal government has put a suspension on all interest for federal loans until October 1st. So you will not have interest accruing for the first month or two while you're in school. But starting October 1st, these loans will start accruing interest. Please also note that the interest rates on the screen are the current rates, and they will likely change slightly next year. I believe that should be announced officially very shortly. And to my knowledge, they're pretty much staying close to the same, so just keep that in mind. You will have a 6-month grace period before entering into repayment, as long as you're registered for 4.5 credits or more each semester. I want to stress that there is no need-based aid offered by the Department of Education for MBA students, which would be something like a Pell Grant or a subsidized loan. For the Graduate Plus loan, the interest rate is currently 5.3%. This loan has an origination fee of 4.228%. And in order to be eligible for the Graduate Plus loan, the government will run your credit to determine your eligibility. This is a soft credit pull, so it's a bit easier to pass than in terms of than a private loan, but just keep that in mind that your credit will be run. This loan also accrues interest while you're in school and has a 6-month post-enrollment deferment before entering into repayment. This is pretty much exactly the same as the grace period. There are no prepayment penalties associated with either federal loan.
Thanks, Corey. So now we are going to speak a little bit more about the difference between both federal and private loans. So we now know that the Department of Education offers student loans through the FAFSA, but there are also private lenders who offer loans and other forms of financial assistance for education. Private student loans are non-federal loans provided by a lender such as a bank, credit union, or state agency. They have variable and fixed interest rates based on a student applicant's credit score. Our website has a private loan section with a helpful list of things to consider when choosing a private loan lender. An example from the list of things to consider is that private loans do not offer the opportunities for cancellation or loan forgiveness that are available on many federal loan programs. Our site also includes loan application tips, such as the 14-day window and how that affects your credit score. Basically, we suggest that if you are shopping around for a private student loan, you shop around within a 2-week window so that it only affects your credit and only hits it as a hard hit once. Another thing that we mention is that if you do decide to go with private loans, but you are offered federal loans, you would want to first decline your federal loans in NYU Albert so that there's room in your budget for us to certify that private loan. So I'll now discuss with you the awarding process. So when something like a loan or a scholarship is first posted to your financial aid account, this will trigger an automatic award notice email that is sent from NYU's Central Office of Financial Aid. Our office, which is the Stern Graduate Financial Aid Office, will also send you a follow-up award notice email, but that email will have a little bit more detailed instructions on the next steps. If you submitted the 21-22 FAFSA, our office will automatically set you up with fall 21 and spring 22 federal loans, and you can expect to receive an award notice from us within the next few weeks detailing the next steps. We usually package students with loans approximately 1 month prior to the payment deadline. However, we are currently experiencing a slight delay, but we will be sure to package you with loans before your payment deadline on June 15th. If you haven't already submitted the FAFSA, you can still go ahead and submit it, since we do set up loans on a rolling basis as we receive FAFSAs in. If you have private loans, NYU's Central Office of Financial Aid will certify that loan with your lender and also in NYU Albert, and you'll then receive an award notice email from the Central Office of Financial Aid. You don't need to take any additional steps to get that loan approved. Everyone who gets an award notice email will be prompted to log into NYU Albert using your NYU Net ID and password. After you log in, you'll see a page that looks a lot like what you see on the screen. Following the prompts on the screen will take you to your financial aid award package, which will include items like your loans, scholarships, or outside aid. For federal student loan borrowers, from here, you can view your federal loan package and accept, reduce, or decline the loans. But for private loan borrowers, you can just view your certified private loan here, but there are no additional steps that you need to take. For federal student loan borrowers, this is what a typical award package will look like for you. Our office will set you up with both the unsubsidized loan as well as the Grad Plus loans for both semesters. And from here, you can determine if you would like to accept, reduce, or decline those loans. You can see from here that you have several options, and it's up to you to decide how much you do want to accept to borrow for whichever semester. You may also decide you don't want to borrow at all in the fall, but you may want to borrow in spring 22. And if that's the case, you can just simply leave your fall 21 loans as is in NYU Albert, or you can decline them. If you are borrowing a fall private loan, you will see that loan and the amount certified in Albert. But once again, you don't need to take any further action. If you accept your federal loans in NYU Albert, there is a list of loan documents you'll need to complete in order to secure their disbursement. You'll want to head over to a federal student aid site called studentaid.gov and log in using your FSA ID, which is the same ID that you used when completing the FAFSA. If you're planning to borrow both the unsubsidized as well as the Grad Plus loans, you'll need to do 3 things in order to secure their disbursements. And that's basically mentioned on the screen. You'll need to sign the unsubsidized loan master promissory note. You'll need to sign the Grad Plus loan master promissory note. And then you'll also need to complete the entrance counseling session for both of those loans. All 3 of these items can be done online via that studentaid.gov website. You only need to complete these steps once, and that's because they are valid for 10 years. The only exception to that is if you have a Grad Plus loan with a cosigner. If that's the case, then you need to fill out a new Grad Plus loan master promissory note each time. If you're planning to borrow a private student loan, you don't need to complete these steps. We would just suggest that you consult with your lender on the documentation that they do require.
We're now going to run through 2 common loan scenarios that our office often receives questions on. Students will often ask, what if I accept the maximum in federal loans now, and then later decide as the semester progresses that I do not need the full amount or want to cancel the loan entirely? You can return federal loan funds via the school within 120 days of disbursement. This payment is considered a return on the principal, and no interest or origination fees are charged. You can do this every semester each time you have a loan disbursement. You can also reduce a portion of the loan and not cancel it entirely. The second scenario is the opposite from the first. Let's say you reduced your federal loan too much, and mid-semester you realize you would like us to reinstate all or you can do so by emailing our office with your request. Just make sure to do so before the semester has ended. Student loans essentially act as a credit until the funds disperse to the Stern Bursar each semester. Because they act as a credit, you aren't required to pay that portion of your balance in advance. You just need to make sure that your loans are accepted and that you've completed all of your documents. The first disbursement date for federal loans is typically 10 days prior to the start of your first class. You can review your individual class schedule to determine the date of your first fall class, which will be what your disbursement is based upon. The Bursar's fall payment deadline is June 15th. You will want to make sure that you have all your financially finalized before that date. We're now going to transition away from loans. If you have any questions, feel free to use the chat box and the Q&A feature. We can make sure we get to them before the end of the webinar. We'll now be discussing other forms of student aid, such as scholarships and company sponsorship/reimbursement. All scholarships are merit-based and determined at the time of admission. The admissions team has already reviewed you for merit-based scholarships, and those would have been included in your acceptance letter. We do have some resources to search for external scholarship opportunities. Our scholarship database is comprised of organizations who have reached out to us to let us know that they have funds that they would like to give our students. We post the information on our website, including the deadline and a link to their application website. We update this on a rolling basis and tell students to check it every 3 to 4 weeks to see if something new has populated or to see if a deadline has been extended. The scholarship tools page is a resource to find different search engines that other students have used, and you can feel free to explore to see if there's anything that you can apply for. Company sponsorship is a direct payment by an employer to the university on the student's behalf and is counted as part of financial aid. In this case, the student will not need to make an out-of-pocket payment for the sponsorship amount, and this will roll into NYU Albert once payment is received. The bursar processes company sponsorship, and then it rolls into the financial aid system each semester. Company reimbursement, however, is a bit different from company sponsorship. Company reimbursement is a transaction between the student and their employer and does not involve the university. In this case, the student will need to make some sort of payment by his or her payment deadline while awaiting the reimbursement from their employer. Typically, companies will pay out tuition reimbursement directly to their employee at the end of the semester after they know a student's grades. Any funds that you pay out of pocket could be refunded to you by the bursar's office once your company reimbursement is received. Students using company reimbursement will also often take advantage of that 120-day return policy with the federal loans. So they might borrow loans at the beginning of the semester, get their company reimbursement within that 4 months, and then send the funds back to the lender and have the interest and fees forgiven.
Great, thank you, Corey. Do we have any questions so far?
Yes, let's see. So someone asked if the deadline to submit payment is June 15th, but can we deposit the payment now or before then? Yes, the bursar should be billing you pretty shortly. So once that happens, you'll be able to see your bill in the bursar e-suite in NYU Albert, and then you'll be able to make payments towards your tuition. Someone also asked, when does the credit check typically happen for the Grad Plus loans? Is it okay if there is a credit freeze in place? So once you receive your loans and once you click accept on that Grad Plus loan, that is when the credit check will happen. At that point, you'll need to make sure you do not have a credit freeze in place. Otherwise, the loan will not go through. We received another question asking how scholarships work. So the scholarship will be applied directly to your first 2 payment deadlines. That's correct, Felicia, right?
Yes, that's correct. They'll be equally dispersed between the first 2 semesters.
Great. Yeah, so half of it will be applied to fall and the second half will be applied to your spring bill. And the bill for fall should probably show up in the next week or so. And then you'll be able to see that in the bursar e-suite. Any more questions, please feel free to keep them coming.
Okay, so this basically concludes today's webinar. We hope that everyone found this to be helpful. Our office will be sending out a short survey and would love your feedback. And if you have any questions, please just feel free to contact us at any time. We are going to stick around for a little bit longer, maybe a few more minutes to see if there are any new questions that will roll in.
We did get a question about if the email notifications will go to their personal or NYU email. Everything will go to your NYU email, so make sure you have that set up and are checking that regularly.
I also want to mention that we do have workshops throughout the year, such as lunch and learns, loan repayment, and one-on-one repayment sessions when you are nearing graduation. So if you are interested, please be on the lookout for those. We will definitely send that email notification to your NYU email address as well.
Okay, it looks like that might be all the questions we have for now. If anyone has any more questions, we'll stick around for just another minute, or feel free to email us and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. Okay, great. Doesn't look like we have any more questions coming in, so everyone have a great weekend. Oh, it does look like we actually have another question. Just a second.
Okay.
So the question is, for the graduate plus loan, is there a maximum amount that you can borrow? So there isn't technically a maximum for the grad plus loan. However, your borrowing for each semester must be within your cost of attendance. That means your full tuition and fees, plus you do have allotted living expenses. That's around like 16 or 17,000 per semester. Summer's a little bit less because it's a bit of a shorter semester. So you can borrow for that cost of attendance. If you do want to do that, feel free to just email us and then we can know to set that up. But there isn't like a lifetime limit on the grad plus loan. Okay, great. Well, we will end the webinar there. Again, please feel free to email us with any questions, and we look forward to having you join us in the fall.
Have a great weekend.